Good morning, Year 3. Welcome back to our YouTube channel and welcome back to another history lesson. As always, I'm going to share my slides so then you can see what I can see and we can work through the different bits and bobs together. So today, our learning intention is to understand what is unique about the Roman army. So we're carrying on from what we were looking at before when we started to look at what Roman soldiers wore and we started to think about why they were the way they were. Okay, so I've got a bit of a recap I want you to have a little think about now. What was before the Roman Empire? So we're doing the Romans at the moment, we're looking at that. What came just before it? Have a little thing, we have done that. Why is the shield curved around the body? And who was Julius Caesar? So have a little quick go now at answering those recap questions. Okay, so of course, before the Roman Empire, we had prehistory, didn't we? So just before was the Iron Age. The shield is curved to protect the body. So then they could protect all around their body, not just the front. They've got a bit on the sides as well. And who was Julius Caesar? Well, we looked at him. He led the Roman army, didn't he? And was also a poet. Okay, very quick starter then to get us going. I wonder if you can kind of remember or match up the different parts of the Roman soldier. So we've got groin protection, which is going there. Shield. We've got sandals down there. Remember the sandals had a point on them as well, didn't they? The woolen tunic, and that was mainly for comfort. Shoulder plates, body armor, and the helmet. And the helmet had these bits that came down to protect the back of the neck and the top of the back as well. Okay. Right. So the brilliance of the Roman army was the key to Rome's success in building its empire. Without the Roman army, the Romans wouldn't have been as successful. Okay, and they wouldn't have been able to build this empire without the army. What you can see here, the bits that are red are the bits that the Roman army were able to invade. So of course we identified Italy, didn't we? And we've got the United Kingdom, we've got Britain up here. Okay, so the start of the Roman army. In the beginning, the soldiers were better off, let me move that out of the way, better off citizens who were sent home at the end of the war. The Romans copied Greek armies and fought on foot, and they had large spears. As Roman power grew, more and more people were made to join the Roman army. So at the beginning, it was people that maybe had a bit more money and they were sent home at the end of the war. But as it grew, you kind of, maybe it wasn't a choice as much, you had to join it. So as it changed, the army grew bigger and bigger. Obviously, as they were invading more countries and more places, they had to find more soldiers to help them invade. It had to fight further away from home. Being a soldier became being a full-time job, so they weren't able to come kind of back home at the end of a war, where the soldiers were highly trained and tough. They were no longer sent home at the end of a battle. So they had to go further away, obviously, because each time they invaded somewhere new, they got further and further away from Rome. Okay, so I want to have a little think now. We're going to have a little pause here. How did the growth of the army affect who joined? Did having a larger army affect how the soldiers were equipped? And did the Romans change how they ran the army the larger it got? So obviously we've got some key questions here. You might want to have a go at writing down your answers, or you might want to just sit and have a quiet reflection time. So of course, we know the growth of the army affected who joined because it became almost compulsory to join, didn't it? If we go back to here, people were made to join. Okay, looking at, did the larger army have an effect on how the soldiers were equipped? We're going to learn a little bit more about that as we go. And did the Romans change how they ran the army the larger it got? Well, yes, because they weren't allowed just home after each battle. They had to keep going. Okay. So Roman soldiers were grouped into larger numbers called legions. And there were about 30 of these at different times. Okay, so it was almost like a group of 30. They were called a legion. Legions were divided into 10 cohorts of 480 men. Cohorts were divided into 6 centuries of about 80 men led by 1 centurion. Okay, so he was kind of the main person, the big boss of it all. Centuries were divided into 10 groups of 8 men who shared a tent or a barrack room. So if you were in a century together with your 8 men, you kind of lived together as well in your barrack or your tent. Okay, so lots and lots you can see there. If you're in a legion, centurion, lots of different things there, lots of different people. But what if you weren't a Roman citizen? What happened then? So if you were not a Roman citizen, you could join as a soldier as an auxiliary. Now, auxiliaries often had special skills such as horse riding and archery. The auxiliary soldiers would receive citizenship when they retired. Okay, so if you weren't a Roman citizen, you could say, hang on, I will help you. I would like to help. So for example, if you lived in the United Kingdom, or if you lived in Spain and you wanted to join the Roman army, you could do so. And then you would have citizenship when you retired. So you would then be allowed to move to Italy and live in Italy when you retired from being a soldier. So we're going to do a quick recap about Legionaries' uniform that we've got here, thinking about what makes it so effective. Remember, we looked about how this bit protect the back of the neck. On the sandals, they had a point. This bit you could kind of punch people with, couldn't you? It was curved around the body. This is their kind of long shield, long spear, sorry, that we were talking about a minute ago, and a little dagger as well. I remember we said all of this bit protected lots of parts of the body, didn't it? So you've got all your shoulder protection there, your chest protection there, and so on. Okay, so if you were a legionary, you had lots of training that you had to do. You had to learn to build camps, swing, sling stones, ride horses, mount and dismount horses, so get on and get off a horse, fully armed with your shield and no stirrups. Now, stirrups are the kind of things that go over a horse to help you sit on a horse, basically. So yeah, they had to be able to get onto a horse, and the stirrups have almost like little foot pedals as well, where you can put your foot in and help you get over. So without that, you would have just had to get onto the horse without sort of any support while still holding your shield. They had to do a drill once a day, twice if he was a recruit. You had to march 30 kilometers, which is quite a long way, 3 times a month, wearing all the armor, which weighed 20 kilograms. Okay, so quite heavy that they had to march and do this 3 times a week. They would have had to learn how to use a sword, spear, and fight mock battles with weapons, but they would have put cover tips on the end for safety, so nobody got hurt during the mock battles. So there was lots and lots of training before you were able to become a Roman soldier. I wonder why they did this. I wonder why they put all of this training in place before you were allowed to join. It would obviously make the Roman soldiers very tough, wouldn't it? And very fit. So then when they were going out into battle, they were very fit. They weren't going to get tired easily. They could get on a horse with their shield. They could carry all their armor and all their weaponry. And they were ready because they'd done all the mock battles as well. When they were in the Roman army, you had different positions that they would have used. So this one here is called the turtle. I wonder if you can probably see why. So the turtle, they've got the shield kind of on top of their heads, protecting the person in front and behind them, and then all the way around as well. So the turtle was used to advance towards the enemy by creating a shell out of shields around a group of soldiers. So that one is called the turtle. It helped them get closer to the enemy without being hurt. Because if they all just kind of ran randomly, there's more chance. Whereas with this, they can't be attacked, if you like. Okay, this one is called the wedge, and it was used to divide the enemy by the legion, creating the V. Okay, and remember we spoke about, look, there's their swords coming out there. It was very easy to kind of get to where they needed to get with their V. The repel cavalry was used to protect against soldiers on horses. Horses used their shields as protection soldiers used their shield as protection and threw spears. So if some people were coming near them on some horses, so they've got their spears at the bottom and their spears at the tops, and if the horse came near, it would be sort of struck with the spear and then would almost run away and be a bit hurt. This one is called the orb, and it was used when the army had been split. So the legionaries would protect the archers and the officers. So you can probably see here, there's probably somebody in the middle around the outside. And again, they've got their shields out here and their swords. You've got archery, bow and arrows coming over the top to protect. So they're also attacking and defending themselves all at the same time. Now, discipline was very harsh and soldiers were beaten if they didn't follow the orders. Soldiers who left their post or fell asleep whilst on lookout were beaten to death by fellow soldiers. It was really important that people stayed awake whilst they were fighting. However, there were awards for bravery for different ranks, such as medals, arm and neck bands, gold crowns, and silver spears were given to officers. So if you were really brave in a ward, you would be rewarded with sort of coins or different medals and things like that. So if you weren't very good at it, you'd be punished, but if you were good at it, then you got some things as well. So you may have a couple of questions here. So surely soldiers didn't spend all their time fighting. What other jobs did soldiers do? So as well as fighting battles, the legions built forts, and we know fort is kind of where people live, isn't it? It's like a settlement of where people live. Bridges and roads. When they were on a campaign, they built a camp and fortified them. Okay, so if they were on somewhere where they were trying to invade, they would build a camp like this, and they would fortify it around the side so nobody can get in. Remember when we looked at the Iron Age and they had an Iron Age fort, didn't they? So it's like that, they couldn't get in. They would have had soldiers at each of these viewing points to see if anyone was attacking, and then they could get ready. And they had banks and ditches at the end of the day. So what did soldiers do in their spare time? During their spare time, Roman soldiers may have been able to play board games with counters and dice, or they would have visited the local baths. And we're going to have a little look at the local baths and things in a few lessons' time. Okay. So your challenge today is to create a double page spread. So very similar to how you would normally do your homework, or a bit of a poster or an information page, all about the Roman army. There was so much information in this, in the slides that I've just given to you. You may want to include how, or the start of the Roman army. You might want to include the uniform. You might want to include the different positions as well, from the legionary training, thinking about the different techniques that they used. Your challenge X, a little bit of a thinking question. I want you to think about the meaning of the terms invaders and settlers. Which one would you prefer to be and why? Okay, so some questions you've got there. Please feel free to go back over my PowerPoint, have a look at all the information that I've got on here that you may wish to use as you are creating your double page spread or your poster. Okay, thanks very much. I can't wait to see all the fantastic information that you come up with. I will speak to you soon. Bye.